Going to be talking, as you can see, about ADHD and autism and asking how important is it to get a diagnosis? Are you struggling maybe to get support? You just don't know where to turn. Maybe you suspect that your child is neurodivergent. You'd like to know, well, what are the next steps then? Please do get in touch, because very shortly on the show, we're going to be joined by a clinical psychologist and she'll give you her advice. The number 0207 862 2222. Get your calls in now. But Carrie, you had your own diagnosis, and that amazes me, because I think people would have said about you, so outgoing, so empathetic, you know, so sensitive to other people's opinions, ideas, because you have to be a voice coach. You've got to be delicate. You've got to be, you know, haven't you?
Yeah, and I'm so pleased you said that, because actually for many people who are female and autistic, that is actually how they present. They're ultra empathetic.
Yeah.
So that's been a gift that I've used in my coaching all the time, not realising, oh, that super gift, if you like. I don't like the idea of having superpowers, by the way, but I do think that sense of really tuning into people is part of who I am as an autistic woman.
So then if you were very empathetic, then what is it about you that would show that you are autistic? What are you doing or not doing or thinking about in a way that other people might not be tuned to do?
So the empathy is definitely part of being autistic. My ability to hear sound. So right now I'm aware of all the lights making noises. If I tune into it, it's really overwhelming. I try and just block it out.
And I can't hear anything at all. I'm not aware of anything, just so everybody realises.
There's two different notes that are going on in the background here that I'm able to hear. So that most of the time is absolutely fine. But if it's at the end of a day, my battery is low, and that can be really difficult. Similarly, socially, I love friends. I've got so many friends. I love socialising, but it will get to a certain point in the day where it's like a switch where I just go, I need to just stop now.
Now, you paid to get this autism diagnosis.
I paid hundreds. You know, for many years, the price on getting an autism assessment was thousands, and the waiting lists were like 15 years.
Right.
So that's changed. Those lists have come down. But still, for people that are doing right to choose through their GP, it can take years and years and years.
So explain why it mattered enough to you at this age and stage of your life where you're so established, you know who you are, you know what you believe. You know, why did you need or want the diagnosis? Because I think some people might think it's just a label, and actually people don't like labels very much.
Right, and I understand that, but for me, a label is only a problem if you've got a problem with the label. Right. I don't have a problem with the label. The label's fantastic as far as I'm concerned. I'm brilliantly autistic. My kids are wonderfully autistic, fabulously autistic. So for me, I just wanted that acknowledgement, I think, because I began to think about it more and more. I thought, I just need to know. I need to make sense of some of my own childhood, my own life, my own decisions. And one of the things that was said to me when I was assessed was, the therapist said, Carrie, the psychologist I should say, said, Carrie, you've created the environment in which you most flourish. And I was like, that's so true. I don't work for anybody. I work for myself. I work when I want, in that sense. My house is like the safest space. So yeah, everyone comes to me. If you ask me to go to everybody else, that might be a little bit more difficult.
Right, so I am loving the superpowers, the specialness, the wonderfully, marvellously autistic. I love it, it's fabulous. But I also think that there must have been times in your own life, in your, I don't know if your relationships or which part of your life, where it must have been some kind of issue. So can you give any examples of that?
Right, absolutely. So for me, I can't talk on the phone. I just can't do the phone. I find the phone really... Doing the research chat for you yesterday, it costs me massively to talk on the phone. I don't know why. I just can't do the phone. Like I said, the switching off, it really is like, I need to leave now. So David and I might be out socially, and suddenly I'm like, I need to go. And I just can't interact anymore. That's a definite thing. I think the other thing is that I've got quite a blurty way of speaking, which is great when you're a judge on telly.
Well, that's right. I thought that was kind of on purpose.
But not so good always in friendships. And so sometimes that I've had to do a lot of apologising. And another thing that I think is, I see this as a positive and a negative. I have a really strong sense of justice, which means that makes me an activist, that makes me a campaigner. That's a good thing. On the other side, I can lay awake at night worrying about things that are going on around me, about our communities, about the injustice of it all, hurts me at such a deep level.
And now you know, now you have that diagnosis. Is it relaxing? Is it empowering? And also, do you have to do something with it? Now I know I'm this, now I've got to do something else.
It doesn't matter when I don't fit in anymore. I used to think, how can I fit in? Sometimes I just don't feel like I belong. I feel like an alien. Still sometimes, but I've built my own community, which I do fit in, and I do feel like I belong. And so those places are real brave spaces for me and safe spaces.
And do you think it gives you a special kind of understanding of your children?
Oh my gosh, yeah. And that really shows in the way that David and I parent, because I am tuned into really the tiniest minutiae of their lives.
And then David paid himself for his own diagnosis
well,
of ADHD.
David just got diagnosed a few weeks ago. He was waiting since 2021. And it got to 2025, and I was like, David, you need to you know, we've waited 4 years now. This is just, so it's now because it's only hundreds, let's just save up and do that.
And now he knows he has ADHD.
So his thing is that he wants to have medication for his ADHD. So that's a very specific thing.
And you've been with him all these years and loved him and been happy with him all this time. Do you think he needs medication for ADHD? Oh, you do? What will it do? Blimey, what will it do?
I can't wait.
What do you think it'll do? What will it do for him if it works?
Oh my goodness, give him some focus. Yeah.
Well, after all these years, you don't
David is like, he defers everything all day long. All day long. If he's got a day at home and he knows he's got to do stuff, 4:30, suddenly he's on it.
Prevarication.
He just procrastinates, defers, comes to bed late. All of that stuff, can't organise himself.
So once the medication's on board, this is going to be
waiting.
Prince Charming turned into
yes,
ultimate.
An organised Prince Charming.
All right, well, we're going to be taking your calls on autism and ADHD after the break. And we're going to be joined, as I said, by clinical psychologists who will offer professional advice. Do get your questions and calls in right now. Carrie shared her family's experience with autism and ADHD, and now we're taking your calls on this one. How important is a diagnosis to you? Are you still struggling to get an assessment for your child? Or maybe you've been diagnosed and now you're thinking, OK, all right, but now what do I do about it? So the number's 0207 862 2222. Do give us a ring. Now, Dr. Selina, it's great to see you here. A formal diagnosis really does seem to matter to people, doesn't it?
I really feel it does. I have assessed lots of young people myself and adults as well. And actually, not only does it help children and adults, but also their parents to help frame their experience. So a diagnosis is not a negative thing. In some ways, we can see it's a really positive framework for a child or a parent. So they can understand their experiences. Lots of children have gone through life wondering, you know, why do I feel different? Why am I acting differently to my peers? And now they've got something that they can use to advocate and to explain those difficulties to other people. But also for parents, you know, I see parents that say, actually, I feel really judged. I think people think my child's naughty, but actually they can say, actually, my child's got autism, my child's got ADHD, and they can use that to advocate for that child's needs as well. So I think it can be a really positive thing for families and actually really important. I think, Carrie, that's been your experience as well.
Absolutely.
Yes, that you're thinking, oh my gosh, because when you have a child, you think, I just want my child to be a genius, incredible, remarkable in every way. And then when you actually get the child, you think, actually, I just want my child to do what every other child is doing. I just want my child to blend in, you know, do what everyone's doing. Just don't you? And then when it's not working, it's very worrying.
I think in a way, because the world is set up, and certainly the education system in this country is set up for neurotypical children, that's why our children don't fit in. It's not, I like to think of it that it's not that our children, there's something wrong with our children. It's not that kind of deficit model. It's saying, in this system, you've created a system where everything that is their strength is not going to show, and all their weaknesses are going to show. Their ability to sit still, their ability to tolerate noise, their ability to be interested in every single subject when they just want to be focused in on one.
Yeah.
I mean, all the special interest stuff.
So, Dr. Selina, tell me a little bit about the traits. So if people watching this now are thinking, well, I'm not sure about my child, what are the sorts of things that might be indicators?
So for autism, we look at sort of 3 areas. Well, I guess 4 really, because the first thing we're looking at is it's a neurodevelopmental condition. So the onset should be from early childhood. It's not something that just suddenly appears. However, there are some profiles, like female profiles, where we might see it when the social demands increase. And then with autism, we're looking at 3 areas. So social interaction, social communication, and then sort of restricted repetitive interests or sensory sensitivities or seeking behaviours. So those things can look like children that are struggling to make eye contact, and maybe that they find it hard to read facial expressions, or they may not show lots of facial expressions on their face. Gestures, if a child isn't gesturing, and then their interactions with other people. So what's their ability to sort of make friends, but more importantly, maintain friendships? Are they bossy, or are they dominant in play, or are they withdrawing from the play? And then the sort of sensory elements, we're looking at things like we may see children flapping, or doing hand and finger mannerisms, or some children may, or adults may have sort of interests that they're really focused on as well. So there's even more subtle traits that we can see as well, particularly in girls. But those are maybe some of the areas that you'd be looking out for with autism.
And why does it take so long to get a diagnosis? Is that just shortages in the NHS?
I think there's two reasons. One is that there's a growing awareness of autism and ADHD, which is brilliant. The communities are talking more and more about it. But also the other thing is, I think, yes, the NHS can't necessarily meet that demand. The assessments are really thorough too, particularly autism, which has to be done by a multidisciplinary team. So you've got two professionals. The assessments take at least sort of 4 hours, and then they're huge reports as well. So they're big pieces of work as well. So yeah.
All right, well, we're going to have a chat now with somebody that I've spoken to so many times. He's called Harry Kind, and he's a famous consumer expert. He always pops up on telly and on the radio talking about, oh yeah, this is the cheapest dishwasher, this is the cheapest supermarket, this is the best holiday. But what you might not know is, and I certainly didn't know about him, he was diagnosed with ADHD back in 2020. Harry, so nice to see you. Never knew that about you, but really would like to know what the diagnosis has meant to you and what difference, if any, it's made to your life.
Well, I think it's been a little bit like being diagnosed lactose intolerant or, allergic to eggs or something. You go, oh, that explains, why I was farting after eating a load of ice cream, for example.
I don't think we have any of that behaviour on this programme. I'm horrified. Your mother should give you a good telling off for saying that on my programme, Harry. My goodness. Do we put that down to ADHD, doctor, or just bad manners? I don't know which. OK, move on to something more savoury. People are trying to eat their lunch, Harry, for goodness sake. What's the matter with you?
I'm very sorry for those eating their lunch. No, I do think it's that kind of thing where you have a load of things that happen in your life, and you just go, that's part of me. That's something I've dealt with.
For example, like what?
So I was, when I was at university, I was staying up until 4 a.m. to finish off an essay. And that wasn't because I spent the rest of the week partying. It's because I've spent the rest of the week trying and failing to get down to work. And it was only that looming deadline that was enough to kind of push me over the edge.
I just say Carrie's really nodding in understanding of that.
Right.
So that's like your husband, right?
Every ADHDer will relate to that. Lastminute.com, like literally every essay gets done in the middle of the night.
Right. So, Harry, now you have the diagnosis. How does that change or help anything?
Well, so partly is a case of getting medicated, which has been, I do think, life-changing. It's really cut down not just on the disorganization or the lack of focus, but just emotionally, I feel like I can relax a lot more. I don't think, oh gosh, I've got a whole load of things to do and I've not done them today. I think I've got these things to do and I'll do them one by one. And if I haven't done them, that's fine. But I also think, just being able to put a label on some things and learn to avoid those situations.
Harry, I'm going to stop you there just because we are inundated with calls, and I'm not surprised to hear it, actually. Good to see you, and I hope we'll speak again about dishwashers and supermarkets, and you won't use that word ever again when you're broadcasting with me. Thank you very much. Let's go to Stella in Wrexham. Hello, Stella. You have a son with autism and ADHD. How's it going?
Yes, I do, Vanessa. I mean, he's 19 now, when we've had our struggles and we've had our trials, but he's turned into an absolutely wonderful young man.
Well, that's good to know. And were you helped along the way? I mean, when you got the diagnosis and everything, or have you had to kind of figure out a way yourself?
I have to say, nowadays, there's so much more understanding around the way autistic people interact with their environment. So, for example, I was in the supermarket about 2 weeks ago, and there was a child having an autistic meltdown. Now, sort of 15 years ago, when I was in that position, I would get the stares and I would feel, oh God, and, you know, people looking at me as if to say, why can't you control your child? There is so much more understanding around autism now, and I'm grateful for that, really, for this generation of the people who are diagnosed with autism. I have ADHD myself, recently diagnosed at 43. So, we're a neurospicy family, as Carrie said.
Neurospicy family. Very, very good luck to you. And thank you so much. And I'm glad things you feel are improving. Let's go straight to Denise in East Sussex. Denise, you're in a difficult situation. Your daughter hasn't been to school for 3 years. She does have autism and ADHD. So what would you like to know from Dr. Selina, my love?
Well, it's not just that. She's also got emetophobia and agoraphobia. We've been literally stuck in, not being able to leave the house since the pandemic.
And how old is she now? How old is she?
She's 14 now. She's 14. She's got no friends because, obviously, because we don't leave the house, and most of the friends she did have moved on, and they're out having a good time, and she's at home. And to say she's not in school, I can't get her out of the house.
Let's ask Dr. Selina what she could suggest, if anything, because obviously this is a very difficult situation and very dispiriting, and isn't it, and depressing and distressing for everyone.
Absolutely. And Denise, you're not alone. I actually work with lots of people that share a similar narrative. I think a couple of things. The first thing is that perhaps I wonder when she was at school how well the school was set up to support her neurodiversity. And I think sometimes it might be thinking about starting afresh in a new school. Obviously, there's some work to be done before getting there, but then working very closely with that school to think about what her needs are so that they can try and make the environment as appropriate for her as possible, and that might make it feel safer for her to go to school. I think the other thing is working maybe with groups online for her, so getting her some online support, particularly if she's not leaving the house, so at least she feels like she's part of a community. She might not have friends that she's seeing face to face, but there's a huge neurodiverse population that meet online. There are organisations that offer things.
That's a good idea. Do you, Carrie?
Yeah, I think it is. I think that when many of our children end up in their bedrooms, I've had a child that was out of school for 3 years, exactly at the same age as you're saying here. And I think it is super difficult. You as a parent, you've probably given up work in order to then be a full-time carer. You're running around trying to access services that just aren't there. You can't access CAMS because your child doesn't hit the place that, they're not wanting to end their life necessarily, so therefore they don't reach the threshold to get any help. It's really difficult. I would say that it's to try to build a relationship with your SEND officer at your local authority, because those relationships, they're very difficult to even find out who they are. But if you can develop a relationship, and also SENDIAS is another group that you can contact, and they speak between you and those SEND officers, special educational needs officers, and that group of people should be getting around your family to work with you, either to get your child into school, as Selina was saying, or to give you your own personal budget in order to do stuff with your child. So that's what we did with our child. We started to then be able to get services that came into the home. So we had piano lessons, they went out for horse riding on one day. We then had a TA that came to the house. So we were able to put those things in place. Right, but the main thing is really hearing your child. It's what puts a child in their bedroom is the trauma of school. Yeah. Let's just say that, because that's why the education system needs to change. Listen, and those moments need to be helped. I hope
this has been helpful to you, Denise, because obviously this is someone, Carrie, who's really, really walked in your shoes and knows what it's like. Thank you very much. Yes, lots of luck with it. Let's talk to Sue in Portsmouth. Sue, you didn't get your diagnosis of autism until you were 61, but now you're 74. So how's it been since knowing?
Right, yeah. Well, when I was at school, obviously, that's when they thought only males could get it, could have autism. And I was just considered shy, even though I had all the things I couldn't mix. I was on my own in the playground, but I was always called mental or stupid.
Oh, gosh.
But the reason for the diagnosis, when I got diagnosed, that showed me a reason why I was like I was. So that was the good part. But the bad part is when you get a diagnosis as an adult, you're entitled to have social services care assessment to see if you need any help.
Yeah.
Well, it was since then that I wished I hadn't got diagnosed, because we're put under learning disability team.
Yeah.
But they don't really understand autism. I was told that I couldn't have autism because I could drive.
Oh, that doesn't sound right.
like
Dr. Selina looks appalled, and so does
because
Carrie.
I can drive, so.
Oh no.
Yeah, and I was actually caused to be put on the street for 6 months after my husband died.
Oh, I'm very sorry
and I had
to
one
hear
arm in
that. That sounds.
plaster. And
Can I
couldn't
just
look
ask the
after
doctor
myself.
whether, because obviously things are very dependent in this country on where you live in the country, aren't they?
Yeah.
And where your postcode is and who the particular individual is that you see. But that sounds like chronic kind of misinformation, doesn't it, about what autism really is?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that, that sounds ridiculous to me. I think the hard thing is actually as well, a lot of autistic individuals find it really hard to advocate for their needs too.
Yes.
So I think that's also another challenge, that actually she's had that really difficult experience, and then actually to be able to fight the system to say, actually, no, I do need support, I do need this. But there are lots of services out there, like the National Autistic Society, that may be able to help. You can also ask for advocates as well through services like that, who may be able to support you with that fight.
Yes, because nothing worse than going somewhere that you think is going to help you and find that in the end.
And I think it's also the amount of time it takes. The amount of the waiting, and people fall into those gaps like we've just heard.
Very grateful to you for coming in, Dr. Selina. Thank you very much indeed.